back for that too.
Oh, jeez.
He gave you all day, but I'll give you like a cell up to
He's gonna have a whole wall of these things. I'll do this one. Is that enough tears for a little bit anyway?
Yes, yeah, we're done.
All right. We're going to
on.
hit him at the end of the meeting too, so. All right, thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, guys
Moving on to item E1. Commissioner Pritchett?
and girls. Laura?
Thank you, ma'am. Is Miss Martha here? If y'all would come forward for the American Indians and Alaskan Natives resolution. I'm going to read this, and then you can make a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Whereas American Indians and Alaska Natives were the original inhabitants of the land that now constitutes the United States of America, and whereas American Indians and Alaska Natives have traditionally exhibited a respect for finiteness of natural resources through a reverence for the earth, and whereas they have served with valor in all of America's wars, beginning with the Revolutionary War through the conflict in the Persian Gulf, and whereas American Indians and Alaska Natives have made distinct and important contributions to the United States and the rest of the world in many fields, including agriculture, medicine, music, language, art, and whereas they deserve to be recognized for their individual contributions to the United States as local and national leaders, artists, athletes, and scholars, and whereas this recognition will encourage self-esteem, pride, and self-awareness in all American Indians and Alaska Natives of all ages. And whereas November is a time when many Americans commemorate a special time in the history of the United States where American Indians and English settlers celebrate the bounty of their harvest and promise of the new kinship. Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we would recognize November 2022 as National American Heritage Month.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett, a second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Would you like to speak?
We're very appreciative, and we just finished our 14th annual Native Rhythms Festival at the Wickham Park, and with the challenges we had this year of Hurricane Nicole, we have to give extreme thanks to the entire staff and leadership of the Wickham Park facility, as well as Parks and Recreation. We couldn't have done it without their assistance and getting everything under control for us and letting us go forward with the event. So rain or shine, we're like the postman. We're there to celebrate and honor Native American Heritage Month. And we thank you so very much for this recognition.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have John and Claire Ellis. Would you like to? Oh, they're speechless.
All right. Also, can I get a motion to approve minutes from the September 20th budget hearing? Motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to consent. Does anybody want anything removed?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Tobia?
F16, Madam Chair.
Can I get a motion to approve consent minus F16? Motion by Commissioner Pritchett. Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, item F16, Commissioner Tobia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is appointments, and District 1 had 4 that were looking for an exemption, and obviously because of sunshine, I wasn't able to reach out. So with your indulgence, a couple questions for District 1, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Pritchett, is that okay?
Already, we advertised a lot.
Oh, that was.
We
yeah,
sent
and-
it right up and,
That was all I was looking for, and
Okay.
Madam Chair, maybe, what I probably should do is ask to amend that form, so we put down, yes, exemption needed, and yes, it was advertised. So, but anyway, I just wanted to make sure, I'm sure you did it, but, anyway, I'm good with it. Thank you for going through those steps.
yes, sir.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Tobia. Second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to public comments. Sandra Sullivan.
Good evening, Sandra Sullivan. I want to give a really big shout out to the county for your efforts with Hurricane Nicole. I was exceedingly impressed with the construction of our docks. They survived. They were built with structures very big, very sturdy. Our infrastructure is very good. And, oops, I forgot to hand these out. So I just want to revisit a couple things regarding South Patrick Shores. In 1984, we had a tropical storm at Thanksgiving, and in response to coastal damage, a coastal element was adopted with a very good setback. Compared to our neighbor in Satellite Beach, which is largely seawalls, rock revetment, built much closer to the ocean. This is how South Patrick Shores survived. Where there were sea grapes, the coastline did very well. And other than Sandpiper, which was built in the 60s, well before that new coastline. This is Oceana. It was built in 2019. It is built 15 feet closer to the ocean than the previous building. And I don't see a CCL permit online on the DEP site. This is Satellite Beach. With their buildings built closer. So the relevancy is they also have a lot of seawalls. I've given you a page from the Coastal Construction Manual on that seawalls cause more erosion on the abutting properties. And so that's this page. So why is this relevant? Because the sand renourishment needs of South Patrick Shores are very different than Satellite Beach. South Patrick Shores, with that coastal setback, was designed so our beaches naturally regenerate. And unfortunately, 7.6 miles of very dense reef that is protected federally and state has been buried. It is deepest between Hightower and Patrick Air Force Base. There's a sheet here. I would suggest if you would consider doing a dune restoration, as was historical, and not a beach restoration, at least in the area of between Patrick and Hightower, which is the area of densest reef identified by the Corps of Engineers. And lastly, I just want to say is from the documents I'm reading that the artificial reef was not predicted to work by the Corps of Engineers, and there's nothing in the monitoring documents about it. Thank you.
All right, that's all I have for public comments. Moving on to item H1. Are you taking this or is staff? Tilly?
Madam Chair, I'll be following up on the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 106 of the Brevard County Code, excuse me, pertaining to wrecker and towing services. As you know, we've spent a lot of time. Our legal staff has spent many, many hours over the last 5 or 6 months. I think it's been that long. Maybe feels longer.
Thank you.
But what the goal was here was to approve on what we had. We had a 2008 ordinance that was supposed to raise prices for the towing companies by 3% or the CPI, whichever's less, and it never happened. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. So fast forward to a few months ago, and it was brought to our attention here in the commission chambers that the agreement was very antiquated. In fact, it didn't even cover an item called a rotator. Rotator is a big machine that can flip a truck that's been turned over, and it'll right it without busting it apart and putting a lot of cables on it and risking lives. And the insurance companies won't cover that cost because the county doesn't have it in its ordinance. So we set about to tighten up those items and protect the citizens, at the same time bringing this up to date. So as I said, an awful lot of time was spent with the towing companies, probably not as much as they wanted, but I think we've got something here that's very, very worthwhile. And I hope my fellow commissioners have had a chance to look at this, and if you have any questions, please ask them. I can tell you that we didn't make all the towing companies happy, which may not be a bad thing. When you're negotiating, you don't want to give everything away. So I think we're in a good place with this. Not that it can't be improved on. In fact, I advised them in my office yesterday morning that it would be a good idea if they reached out to, after this is in place for 6 or 8 months, reach out to the new commissioners and the existing commissioners to maybe tweak some things some more, if you guys can come to agreement to do that. I would strongly encourage them to do it, and I would strongly encourage my fellow commissioners to be receptive to that fact, because I think it's very important. This is something that, an area that none of us hope that we ever have to have our car towed. But if you do, you want it done in a professional manner, and you want it to be done in a manner that is not going to cost you an arm and a leg. And there's an awful lot involved here. Insurance companies are involved in many of these tows. Sometimes they're non-consensual tows. Most of the time they are consensual. So we've taken all these things into consideration. And like I said, it's not perfect, but I think we've made a good start. So I'm interested to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say.
Okay, I have one card, so let's get that out of the way, and then we'll take it back. Sandra?
So one of the main, Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores, one of the main reasons in when this came up before that this was being addressed is that the fees hadn't been updated since 2008. And so here we have something that's going to get passed on to, residents in Brevard County. My particular concern is the beaches, with the problem we have with a lot of overflow parking in areas that they are not allowed to, parking on areas in the where the plantings go, and it'll come to a point where that starts getting enforced. So while we are seeing a increase on our end, on the people end, my concern is if you want to use the logic that we're updating this because it hasn't been updated, the fees haven't been updated since 2008, then why have we not updated the impact fees, which have not been updated nearly 2 decades when we have construction costs that are up with inflation over 30%. So the same logic, that cost is going to get put on to the people, and the developers should be paying their fair share. So there's 2 issues here that I think we have to be proactive with as well, and that is, how do you address the parking issues on the beach side corresponding with this? Thank you.
All right, I guess I did have 2 more cards, but they got mixed in with some old ones. So Don Franson? And after Don, C.J. Chase.
Don Franson. I own Brevard Towing. Address is going to be 4135 North Courtney Parkway. I have a towing zone within the central area on the Merritt Island side, and additionally, just recently on the west side. I just want to say that, Mr. Smith, thank you so much for working with us diligently on this towing ordinance. Like you said, it's a great improvement at this point. But in the future, I want to address the board that I'd like to curtail it a little bit, critique it a little bit more in the future, and trying to get a common sense resolution. Worked on this a little bit, and I tried to mirror other counties to get the same that they had, so it is a common sense resolution. And once again, I just want to thank Kurt Smith for working with us, and in the future, hopefully you'll be receptive to working with us again. Thank you, sir, and you're a true gentleman.
C.J. Chase.
CJ Chase, CNL Towing, Titusville, Florida. Yesterday we spent an hour or so. I'm probably one of the ones that wasn't as happy, although I think when it was all said and done, I think the towers that showed up, which the ones of us that showed up are the bigger companies within the different zones. You've got a lot of companies that don't do non-consensual towing, that don't do police calls, so they feel like none of the rules apply to them. Hopefully we can apply some of these rules to them. That's what we're looking for as well. But in the same aspect, I think what we came out with yesterday was a good work, a good start, as we had discussed, to further on. I felt as well that nobody got everything they wanted. You know, we were able to get some things removed, some things changed. Y'all were able to convince us that some things needed to stay. And in the grand scheme of things, as long as both sides still want something, we have something to build on. It's my understanding there might be other resolutions or things that might be presented. I would ask that the commission vote for this one. This is the one that the guys that know what they're doing as far as towing, the guys that, you know, are concerned with this, are they going to continue to work towards this? Working in conjunction with the commissioner. He's the only commissioner that I got a chance to really work with. We were waiting for a round table that didn't happen. Once again, everything that came down yesterday, I think it was a good compromise, and I think it's something we can live with while we continue to work. I think as a towing community, we're going to possibly see about putting our own county thing together where we can kind of work things and come to y'all with something that says, hey, this needs to work for everybody. You know, we don't want to gouge the customers, but we have a very expensive business that we're in. I tell a lot of people, inevitably people come up and the first thing they hear when they get your bill, and we've all done it to somebody, is, man, I need to do your job. You know, I need to buy a truck. And my first answer to them is, I'll sell you my business, write me a check. You know, there's a lot of headache involved. A lot of money goes through our hands, very little sticks. Insurance, fuel, all the big players are tied into us. We have to fight with insurance companies to get paid regardless of what's billed. You know, so it's really hard with that, but I think we can start with this.
Just educate the folks. Your last truck, what did that cost you?
I bought a truck in April at the tow show. That one was $250,000. It's a 16-ton. It does your medium duty work. I think we're getting a couple $100 an hour with that one. I just ordered one because I'm required by FHP to have it for the risk program. $653,000 plus 7% sales tax. That's what really kicks it, is another $50,000 in sales tax. And then I'm going to pay state of Florida a couple grand a year to tag it. Insurance on that truck will be $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So I'm looking at $8,000 to $10,000 a month to have a truck at the ready for these accidents, just like your big pumper fire truck that you paid $500,000 for. They're not, yes, we try to use them on other things, obviously, because we're not going to make $8,000 a month running wrecks. We might get 3 big wrecks a year if we're lucky. You know, so that truck's got to be there for it, as well as $1 million worth of other equipment they require of us. But we don't use it all that. So I appreciate you asking.
Can you make a guess as to what that truck might have cost you 5 years ago?
That truck 5 years ago would have probably been $400,000 to $450,000.
And now it's 665.
Because about 5 years ago is when Edgewater Towing bought theirs, and theirs was right around $450,000. So, you know, different trucks, different, you know, what you add to it. Right now, the truck that Edgewater Towing has is $800,000 and something to go buy new. The truck that they want us to buy, which is the M100, which is 100-ton, we can lift anything out there with it, is over $1 million. I believe one of the companies in Orlando has one. In Orlando, you can say, hey, we need lower prices because they have a lot more volume. You know, we don't get a lot of volume. We get 3 or 4 police calls a week, and that's it. In Orlando, they might run through rotation 4 or 5 times a day. So, you know, you're always looking at cost versus volume. One of the reasons we need the pricing. Our expenses are the same as Lake County. Our expenses are the same as everybody in the state. We all have pretty much the same insurance, the same truck payments. You know, our real estate's outrageous. But to say that we should make less money than, you know, which the most recent is Lake County, that's where I have a hard time with it because everything encompasses the same. Their county is very much like our county in size and population. So, you know, I hope we can get there. They did a really good, I think they had a really good rate structure, and it worked out for everybody. One of the things I want to work towards is a flat rate PPI. That way there's no surprise stuff. I know that's a big thing for you, the private property tows. I think we can work towards getting towards a flat rate so that the customer knows what it's going to be. In some counties, they post it. Some counties, they don't. You know, there's different things we're going to be able to do to move forward. I think what we need to do today is let's get this going.
Thank you.
And I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Pritchett?
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Smith, I took all your data, and by the way, I'm going to support this. I'm going to just ask if we can do a couple little tweaks in the ordinance you put together, this little bit of housekeeping. But I went ahead and did actually I had Adrian do an analysis. I said, Adrian, all these numbers here, but what does this mean? So give me a scenario with a Class A and a bus, and what would the difference in cost be? So I have Brevard County currently as the first column, and then what Lake County is getting, and then the proposed Brevard County. So it's still lower than Lake. We tried to do a Volusia, but we couldn't get an apples-to-apples comparison. So it was above my pay grade, and if it's above Adrian's, it must have been very difficult. So anyways, so I did this. I got pretty comfortable with it, and same with on the bus. It's still under Lake, but there's no way we can jump it all the way up that high without it being able to do a catch-up right now, because I couldn't do that. But I can handle with what you brought, Commissioner Smith. So we did our due diligence and ran a lot of numbers. But on the ordinance right now, the ones that I passed out, if you guys would look at page 7, this is from the county attorney's office. He gave us some additional information about CAO requiring $80,000. So you would have to do a little more tweak on that, sir, if there's something that you need to fix with that. But we just put it in there with green. And then on page 8, the airbags on there were for a minimum. I want to get rid of a minimum just so they use exactly what they need. So that's an a la carte item. If they use one airbag, they should charge for one airbag. So that's something.
Where is this?
Page 8, sir,
I'm looking at it. What's the number on it?
right here, the red one. We made it
up here?
red.
I don't,
Page 8.
this is page 8.
Which one are you looking at?
Oh.
No, must not be the right one.
Yeah, don't look at the original, look at the one I gave you.
You're looking at Rita's?
I thought I was.
Oh, right here.
You hide it on
I wasn't hiding it.
it? Okay, got it.
So if we could just strike that through and just be actual of what they use. And right here, there was a discrepancy on 2 parts. So on number 8, it needs to be upon hookup, because that makes it consistent with the beginning part of the ordinance.
We already did that.
Okay, I just did a clean copy. And then over here on page 9, I'm going to be more comfortable if we don't just do an automatic thing that it comes to the Board of County Commissioners. So I kind of went back to the verbiage, and we probably need to look at this every year or two, but I'm never comfortable doing automatic raises without us taking a look at the items. So if we change 11 and just do those couple little of adjustments there with pretty much housekeeping, I'm in support of this.
Let's go back to 8. We didn't do that. They specifically asked to and from the point of pickup because it takes them time and effort and gas to get from, and so they're not being paid. So if you have a big county like we have, and their tow yard is, say, 20 miles from the wreck, that 20 miles and the time that it takes to cover, they're not being compensated.
Well, if you want to put a maximum amount on that, but let's say that the tow's coming, and I had this happen to me a couple months ago, that the tow was coming all the way from the other end of the county. And so I think if you want to keep it with that amount, that we put a cap on it, and after that,
Well, what kind of, give me a number.
if you want to do 20-mile cap
Okay,
until we get there, I'd be fine with that.
let's make it 35, because the county's 70 miles long, so that's halfway.
Right, but what I'm saying, if I'm up here and I'm having someone come tow a thing about a parking lot, it should be somewhere close by. So if they're doing a rotation and it's far away, I think that's something that's kind of our bad at that time. So
Please don't speak out.
we're adjusting the mileage rate, so that's just something I think protecting whoever's not having any say on the tow, that would make me a little more comfortable.
So you're thinking 20?
Yeah, otherwise, I'm really more comfortable at doing a place of hookup, but I'll negotiate that with you and put some kind of buffer in there.
Let's make it 25 and we're good.
Okay. Or we can leave it alone. And then on page 9, I think we need to go back to that original verbiage. The county commission needs to look at this every time without just an automatic increase. There could be your CPI doesn't change, there could be yours that goes down, so I
Well,
think we
see,
need
the
to
only
look at
problem I
it.
have with that is, we've gone from 2008 with that same problem
Someone
to
should have brought it up,
2014.
though, because we had the same thing in there. It could raise, but somebody needs to bring it up and have a conversation.
Well, then that means they have to get the ear of at least one commissioner. What if none of the commissioners?
Well, then they're not going to vote it through anyway, but I think the commissioner should have that responsibility to the taxpayers.
I would hope
Because
so.
automatic tax increase.
Or maybe, I don't mean to interject, but maybe the compromise is that it comes back to the board annually, that you can write that right in
Okay,
the
let's-
ordinance, and
let's
that
do
way
that.
it forces the issue
Okay,
Okay.
to the board, so one person's not responsible for bringing it up.
I'm good with
That's
that.
good.
Morris is frantically writing.
Please don't, no.
Okay, if we just do those couple things, I'm totally in agreement with this, sir. And then we can look at it again about seeing what we need to do to get it more competitive with Lake County.
What do you
moving
think
forward.
about designating a specific period each year, like the third week in January? That way, everybody's on the same page. It's after the holidays, and we're settling into a brand-new year, and they're done with their heavy holiday tow, and everybody knows that this is something that the commission has to look forward to and work toward.
We do that, or it just comes up right during our budget workshops, too. It'll be one of
Right.
their topics.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
John's making a
John,
face down there, so.
Wake up.
Commissioner Tobia, you're on.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, kudos to Commissioner Smith here. This is a very complicated issue, obviously, because there are numerous stakeholders here. It's not just towers, it's big towers versus small towers. It's consensual, non-consensual, it's taxpayers or ratepayers, the sheriff's in this, and to
All-
come up
all
with-
municipalities.
with any consensus here is very difficult. And I think you did something wise, whether you did it on purpose or not, waiting right to the end and seeing this is something that is extremely important to you, and, take it or leave it, I think was a great move, one that I may borrow here in a couple years. I'm going to start with some of the positives here. And let me tell you why, because when this first started, I was a no on this, quite frankly. However, there are enough positives in here that I think that there's a way to move forward on this one. So thank you for doing the work. It's very apparent from where it started to where it is today. I want to let you know that I do have quite a few questions, and because of sunshine, obviously I couldn't ask you, but to give you a heads up, I already had 10 times this amount of questions that the county attorney's office took quite a bit of time with me and worked through as many questions as he had the knowledge to answer. So these questions are ones that I couldn't figure out. He still had some questions on. So that's, I just didn't come up with these. So I do want to start with the positives here. Right off the bat, improving accessibility for individuals with disabilities by replacing acronyms with spelled out words. That's the 10th whereas clause on page 2. I think it's very important. I would have certainly forgotten to do that, and I appreciate.
Credit the attorneys.
Okay, I greatly.
That wasn't me.
Well, either way, it was a great move. Second Section 106, setting a maximum for towing for public entity vehicles being operated under official business. That's Section 106.5, Section 2, page 7. Again, I think that's a great idea. And number 3, implementing the wrecker operator system, 106.8, page 12, I think is very important that we put that in place. Dealing with the sheriff is a lot of work, and I appreciate you doing that. So thank you so much. There's a lot of good in here, and I certainly wanted to start with that. But I did have a lot of questions, so if you'd bear with me as I'd ask them. The majority of this ordinance is actually duplicating state statute, as you're probably well aware. My question to you is, what do we do when state statute changes?
That's a good point. Mars, would you suggest that we have some kind of automatic change in there, or what are your thoughts?
To some extent, some of that has been eliminated, but yes, some of this is duplicative to Florida statute or references Florida statute. So when statute changes, that would require an update to the code. An alternative is sometimes you can just point to the statute as may be amended.
Yeah, all you do is cite the statute, and if the statute changes, you don't have to change the ordinance. The follow-up question is what's the cost to the county if we have it enumerated out, and we have to go back and change that? Obviously, that's public notice, that's advertising, that's staff time. So
We could eliminate that with wording.
yes, but again, as sunshine, I couldn't have made that suggestion
Right,
before
well-
this. So that's the legal aspect.
I think
of it.
that's doable. Mars, that's not a big deal, right?
I've got a compromise that'll encapsulate most of this stuff. Next of all is Section 106.6. This is page 10, the Customer Bill of Rights. As you know, the Bill of Rights were a great document, gave us a whole bunch of wonderful rights, speech, guns, all that great stuff. My question to you is, what new rights are granted in the Customer Bill of Rights that is in this ordinance?
New rights versus what?
Rights that the consumer has, because this was a consumer-friendly bill, so my question to you is, what new rights are given to the consumer in this? I couldn't find any. And if you want to take the Fifth Amendment, that is actually one of the rights you got with the initial
I want to
Bill of
cite
Rights.
my right under.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would defer to Laura and Mars on this.
It's just about making the public aware of the regulations that apply,
So-
particularly the maximum rates.
I got it.
Posting those,
So we'll get there. So there are no new rights here.
just informing people of
Correct.
existing rights.
Okay. So I want to get to the information. That's very important. Commissioner Smith, would you agree that posting of already existing rights, as said by the county attorney, on businesses is what, you've levied against business mandates? Would you say that forcing businesses to post something would you consider that a business mandate?
Depends on how it's worded.
Well, you have it as a must. We're going to get here in a minute.
Well,
It's,
I think when we discussed this, it was a good idea because and this doesn't happen often, but the thinking was that if we have somebody that was parked in a parking lot that they weren't supposed to be parked in and their car got towed, there's nothing worse probably for an
Yeah.
automobile owner to come out and see their car gone.
No, no,
And if
you-
they see that their car's gone, they don't know what
Yeah.
their rights are and what
Yeah,
they can
but
do and where it is.
I'm with you, but in the ordinance, we're talking at the record
Right.
offices. This isn't, so this is at the record, not where it's
Right.
towed, to be
Right.
clear.
Right.
That's where you put it.
Right.
So my follow-up to that is, what size does the sign need to be?
I didn't know that we had to have a specific size. Is
Okay.
that something that we
We
want to
don't
consider?
have to, but this is a mandate, and I certainly want to make sure the business owners are aware, you put a 3x5, somewhere where it can't be seen.
I-
Okay, my next question on that, will you made accommodations for people with disabilities. Will there be accommodations for people with disabilities on these signs?
We can do that. I think that would be worthwhile doing.
Okay. What about foreign languages? And the reason I say that is the Language Minority Provision Voting Rights Act of 1976 requires that ballots be provided in a minority's language if 5% or more of the voting age citizens speak that language. So what will we do about the people that speak a language other than English?
You mean like Swanis? What language are you referring to? There's an awful lot of languages out there
I
besides
know there are.
English.
That's why I'm concerned about the number of, I don't know, I'll say
I'm being-
Spanish.
I'm being facetious.
Well, we do Spanish for voting, maybe we could just.
We do many other languages than Spanish for voting.
For voting, we do.
Absolutely.
I only saw Spanish ballots.
Absolutely. Okay, so,
Well, again, I'll defer to our legal team. I don't know.
well, I'm concerned, and let me tell you why I'm concerned. With the automatic rate adjustments that you have in here, will the owner of these tow companies need to update the signs on a yearly basis?
But they're not automatic now.
Well, we haven't voted on it.
Oh.
And assuming we do vote for it, will they need to,
Well, that would be up to you and my fellow commissioners.
okay, so my question is if the owners don't update it in a timely fashion, the section that you have as a provision for a penalty is 1067D, which is a fine of $500 or 60 days in jail. Do you think that's fair that one of these towers would?
No, and I have to tell you that that's one that got past the goalie because I would X that out completely.
Okay,
I don't want any, because the sheriff isn't going to, and none of his folks are going to write a ticket to one of these guys that's going to put them in jail. So I think that if we just deal with the rotation, and that was my suggestion from the beginning, that if they are determined to be guilty of any of these issues, that you guys would just be taken off the rotation for 3 months. I think that's self-enforcing. It's something that you're going to go out of your way to make sure it doesn't happen, and we don't have to get involved. You guys mind your own ship. For me, that's the way to go. So
And
I would like to
I'm not
strike
arguing about the $500 or 60 days in jail. I think we do, I'm against the mandate altogether. I think it's unfair for numerous
Morris,
reasons.
can we strike that?
Yeah, I have a compromise. I think it'll solve most of this stuff. But I want to jump to section 106.5, page 8 on the accident scene. You have bona fide extra equipment, labor time. Commissioner Smith, who provides bonification for that extra equipment or labor?
I believe we were considering that the wreckers, the tow companies would do that.
I shouldn't ask you a question I know the answer to. Actually, in the ordinance, it says the officer at the scene is going to do that. We can't have a wrecker certify their time. That wouldn't work. So my question to you is, in your ordinance, it's the officer at the scene. Do you think it's really fair that an officer that is already assisting with the injuries or directing traffic or conducting an investigation also has the additional responsibility for overseeing the time a wrecker needs to take care of the accident scene?
I don't know, what do you think?
I would get rid of that,
Can I ask the
but I didn't put it there to begin with.
You can
It's
ask the
been in there.
sheriff if they can do it.
What's
You can
It's
ask
the one
the
that's
sheriff
in
if
there
it's something they can do.
Right.
They already do it. If y'all want to research this, none of this would be a problem.
Please don't speak out.
Madam Chair, okay, so I want to go to section 106.5. Who legitimizes bona fide waiting time? It's also listed in there as bona fide, and I'll help you here. There's nothing stated in your proposed ordinance, not the officer this time. It's specifically not stated.
I think maybe the sheriff should hire you as his legal aid.
I have no legal training whatsoever. But anyway, if we're going to do something bona fide, which means genuine or real, we should actually have somebody that's verifying that time, and this ordinance doesn't do it. So let's go to the billing section. This is 106.5, page 8. The section states that service call-outs, the tow truck driver is, quote, entitled to charge the applicable service fee plus labor plus parts. My question to you, Commissioner Smith, what's the cost of labor per hour? That's not listed in the ordinance.
I thought it was. It is.
It says, it does not say. That's section 106.5, A5 on page 8. Let me follow that up. What is stopping a tow truck driver from charging $50 for a screw?
It wouldn't be legitimate because it's not part of our,
There's no cost. If the intent of this ordinance is to protect consumers, my suggestion would be is you add the word reasonable prior to labor and parts, and you're going to see that in a compromise. So, and Commissioner Pritchett brought up this also is on the mileage rates. I can assess mileage from pickup location to the storage location. I think you arbitrarily came up with 25 miles here. My thought was, and I got the county attorney to come up with this, actual miles traveled to and from the point of pickup or the round-trip distance between the wrecker operator's nearest place of business and the point of pickup, whichever is less. Because the start of the tow could be anywhere. In other words, the tow could initiate in Volusia County, and there's nothing in the ordinance that provides a maximum. This would solve that and not allow it to be abused. Not that I'm saying any of the wreckers are abusing it, but if they're not, they shouldn't have a problem with setting a maximum on that amount. Again, that came directly from the county attorney's office, something.
well, we'll,
That's not what we talked about, but that doesn't sound like bad verbiage.
And, okay, so, and I've stayed away from fees the most, and unfortunately, I've got to get there. But before I get there, Madam Chair, can I have your indulgence to ask a
Yes.
couple questions to the sheriff? Sheriff, do you mind?
I was going to have him come up anyway.
Can we find out what language he's going to speak?
what language would you recommend?
Country.
Sheriff, do you receive any revenue from any of these towing service fees?
No, sir.
Okay. So clearly, you have no interest in fees. Is that correct? Other than keeping consumers, at a fair and balanced rate?
Right. Other than trying to be a shepherd of the taxpayers' dollars, I have no dog in that fight.
Okay, so you don't receive any of these. So you look at 32%, and your eyes may widen a little bit more.
To be honest, we've been focused on the things that we're focused on,
Okay.
not anything to do with the fees.
Okay, thank you. Because I was under I guess what I read, I was under the misconception that you might have been in favor of that. So thank you for.
Did you read that in the Florida Today?
I might have. So, thank you for
That pretty
clearing
much
that
puts
up.
it on.
That
into
makes it very
perspective,
clear.
doesn't it?
I appreciate it. That's all I was interested in. We may have some in the record order, but that's on the fees aspect. You're not involved in it,
No,
as you
sir.
just said.
We don't have a dog in that fight.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes, sir.
I do want to thank Commissioner Pritchett for doing some work on looking at another county. So my only question to Commissioner Commissioner Pritchett, why Lake County? It's not a neighboring county. In fact, you have to go through numerous other counties to get to Lake County.
I think you gave a couple early on, and we tried to do one with Volusia as well, but again, it was too hard to interpret the data, Commissioner Tobia, and I can't pick up a phone and call you. So we just took the one that seemed that was a little bit more comparable with the same types of charges, and that's where I just ran the data from on that. That's all that was.
Okay.
Do you have some more data?
I actually have pertinent data here
Okay.
of counties that are much closer to us. That would be Seminole County, again, closer to Lake County, Volusia County, Orange County, and Polk County. So I think the data is a little bit better with the neighboring counties. Currently, even though ours dates back to 2008 and Seminole's as recent as 2021, we're the highest in many categories. By the way, this had been run through the county attorney's office. If we were to go ahead with this proposal, we would be highest in 66 of 69 categories. In other words, 96%. And then things just started to go downhill from there, and let me tell you why. Because in 9 of the fee categories that are listed currently in our ordinance, if we are truly to compare this, when I looked at Seminole, Volusia, Orange, and Polk, all 4 of these counties expressly prohibited by ordinance 9 things that we were currently charging for. And I began to wonder, why in the heck are we charging for something that other counties don't allow? Those, by the way, and I have copies of the ordinance if you need them, are fuel surcharge per mile, non-towing service call fees, A, B, C, and D, removal of drive shaft in Class BCD, air hookup in Class BCD, removal of the pull axle in BCD, removal of the bumper in BCD, removal of airfoil in BCD, and trailer, semi, rollback, or drop back trailer or truck in Class B, C, or D, and airbags. And it's not that they don't charge for it. Let me be clear. It's that ordinance says you can't charge for it. So it lets me know that this is pretty nefarious, in my opinion. So my question to you is, Commissioner Smith, why should Brevard County have these fees, and even more, increase these fees if our neighboring counties are not only not charging, they're saying you specifically can't charge for it?
I can't verify that's true or not true, but I can tell you from just what you've presented here, we're not looking at outrageous numbers. Yes, you're correct that in many cases they're higher, but they're higher, well, one's $29, $29.98 in Brevard County, the proposed, and the existing in Seminole is $25, a difference of $4.98. And it's $20 in Volusia, and it's $25. So we're in the same ballpark.
Madam Chair,
Removal of drive shaft, air hookup, remove pull and axle. These are items that these folks have brought up, and I would, again, defer to our attorneys because they've spent more time on this than I did.
Madam Chair, I've just passed down a prohibited language in neighboring counties. I pulled it actually from Orange County, Polk County, Seminole County, and I highlighted the pertinent parts of where it specifically says they cannot charge for these. So,
Commissioner
more.
Tobia, would it be they can't charge a minimum, or because?
No
if they
fees or
use it,
charges
okay.
shall be made for special equipment services, including but not limited double hookup vehicle entry with lock, drop transmission linkage, axle drive shaft removal. It goes on and on and on. Orange, Polk is the same. I've highlighted the overlap there. So the next.
Let's just, I'm really getting tired of this. How about if we just cut to the chase? You say you have answers for all this. Let's hear your answers, because I can tell you what you've said so far is you're really, really quibbling about minor stuff. If my fellow commissioners agree with you, then we can eliminate or we can increase. I don't see the purpose of this dog and pony show that we're going through.
it's never fun to have questions that are good and not have answers for them. I understand.
Well, I didn't
So let
say,
me-
that's
let me-
your words, not mine. I didn't say
Wait,
those
you-
questions were good. I said that I'm really getting tired of it. So you said you have answers. Let's hear the answers.
Okay, I've got a compromise here that deals with most of the terrible stuff that is, and I'll go over some of this stuff because it's written extremely, extremely poorly. So, first of all, the compromise deals with working off the current document that we have, which is Resolution 2008-150. Portion one is ADA accessibility. I said, great job there. I certainly think that needs to be included in 2008. So that's number one. Number two, no, the ordinance 2008 was written very well. It gave the towing authority the ability to come up to us at any time. I'll tell you what, no, not one tower ever came up and said, John, we need a rate increase. If they would have, I tell you what, I would have been more than willing to provide them with a CPI increase. But the fact that they didn't take the time to come up here and ask for one, call the office, get a lobbyist, whatever the heck the case may be, doesn't entitle them to a rate increase of that 3% for the 10 years or 12 years that they didn't do it. So what this would do is provide a 3% adjustment for tow rates off the 2008-150 resolution, less the fees that I'm about to mention. Those fees are the ones that I just mentioned. They eliminate all the fees which are expressly prohibited from our 4 neighboring counties. Again, I just provided you with the language that prevents that from happening. Number 4 on the compromise would be to add the public entity vehicles that you are wise enough to put in there. This keeps maximum for public entity vehicles operating under official business. I think it's a great idea, and it certainly needs to be added in there. Number 5, the Wrecker Operating System, 106.8, page 12. Commissioner Smith, great job. I took it line by line and copied it in there. The only one suggested change I have is while we have a wonderful male sheriff, that may not always be the case. So I would change it from his designee to his or her designee. That would be the one.
How about if we go ultra, make a pronoun in here. Let's say it's designee.
I don't care. I just don't like single gender. I just don't. As a father,
I'm being facetious, obviously.
As a father, I think daughter. It's important.
And I can't take credit. You're giving me credit. I can't take credit for this. This was Laura and our own county attorneys doing it. This was their job. This was their work, their handiwork.
Okay. Mileage rates. This is the actual miles, the one we discussed. So wreckers can't leave from Georgia and come down. This is the round trip distance, whichever is lower from where they left or where their place of business is. That's that one. Number 7, I've already discussed the service call out, just adding the word reasonable. Again, if it's consumer bill, we probably should have that. And this is just a point, and I'm sure there are many in here. And I'll ask you this question, even though I know the answer. I looked up a 22-foot Yamaha boat. I don't have a 22-foot Yamaha boat. I didn't know there was a 22-foot boat, but Yamaha makes a lot of them. How much, what would be the removal fee for a 22-foot boat in your ordinance?
I have no clue.
I will tell you right now, it would
Good,
be.
I can't wait.
It's nothing. It's 0. It's not funny, it's 0.
Well, you're funny. So just, it's
The-
not funny, but you're funny. And I enjoy your theatrics, but.
It's not theatrics, it's
Yeah, it
written,
is. Yes, it
it's
is.
written extremely, extremely poorly.
So we're here charged with trying to come up with
And-
something
and
better
I'm-
than what we had.
And I'm giving you a solution here. Do you
Okay.
want me to explain?
In your opinion, it's a solution.
I-
I know, but that's really.
If my fellow commissioners agree,
Madam
then
Chair,
wake up.
Madam Chair, may I
I'm
punt this?
reading.
May I punt this over the county attorney? Morris, how much, according to the ordinance we have here, how much does a 22-foot boat cost to remove?
There is no maximum applied to that, and that's not Commissioner Smith, that's on me, that carried over from the 2008 rate resolution. But yeah, that should be covered. It should say up to and including 22 feet or something in that nature to capture
Well,
it.
I thank you for falling on the sword, but again, there's no fee here because the language was
You're
written
correct.
extremely poorly. You didn't write it in 2008?
But I should have caught it this time. You are correct.
Either way, we have the ability to fix it. So my compromise, again, as passed out here, would ADA accessibility, a CPI adjustment for 1 year, doing away with the prohibited fees, adding the public entity vehicles that you wisely put in there, word for word accepting the Wrecker operating system with the change of the pronoun from his to his or her or theirs or whatever the heck you want, setting a cap of mileage rates, putting the word reasonable in service callouts, and as well as dealing with the error that was accidentally overlooked when it comes to a certain size of boat. But those encapsulate much of what you had, provide a CPI adjustment for the wreckers, and gets us more in line with what our neighboring counties, and by the way, I've done what that 3% is, so you can compare it with our neighboring counties. That is probably a lot more indicative than what Lake County. Again, this is Seminole, and when you look at this, look that Seminole did this in 2021. Orange did this in 2014, Polk in 2013, and Volusia in 2009. So these are relatively recent ordinances. And you can see that the compromise would put us right there in the middle, as opposed to being, if we went off the proposed numbers and the 32% fee increase, we're all of a sudden higher in 96%. So, yeah, I understand how the records are disappointed that we wouldn't be the highest in the 96, but again, while they are a stakeholder, so are the ratepayers are the stakeholders out here. And we don't want to gouge them, and by being the highest of any of our neighboring counties, gouging is probably a nice word for what we would be doing to our ratepayers.
Well, I would say that gouging is excessive, and I think it's uncalled for, and I don't think these numbers, first of all.
You don't think being higher than the neighboring counties 96% of the time is gouging?
Well, if you're talking big numbers, yeah, but we're not talking big numbers. We're talking 117 to 150, 114, 125.
No, in yours, you have $2,100 for airbag removals. In the 4 counties that I have here, Seminole, Volusia, Orange, and Polk, they have 0. I think $2,100 is a lot of money.
Commissioner Tobia, I think that's saying, it's not the actual airbags, it's the brake air was something. I think that could be different. Can we clarify it?
And correct me if I'm wrong, because
Airbags
this
have to
isn't
put it or
money
lift them
that
up.
this
know
is
they're
allowing our tow folks
Right,
to
it's-
charge the insurance companies. This is not an individual that would be paying these fees. And that's how we kind of started here, because it was Kendall that stood at this dais 4 or 5 months ago, and he illuminated the fact that these guys aren't getting paid for a rotator because the insurance companies are willing to pay, except that the county doesn't have a schedule for pay, so they refuse to pay these guys.
Yep.
The insurance companies are making the payments on these things.
Madam Chair, that's a huge fallacy that I'm sure you know as a business
Okay.
owner, because the more the insurance is billed, the more they pass it on to the ratepayers. So the more I have to pay for my insurance because the insurance company is getting billed. So whether it's directly or indirectly, and we're going to find this out with the hurricanes here when we all go look at our hurricane insurance or our wind and maybe even flood if the federal government tips in there, that when insurance has to pay out more, that we have to pay out more. And by overlooking that, you know, I understand where the.
Well, if you were talking about big dollars differences, you probably would have some traction, but you're not. And I dealt with insurance companies for 28 years as, in my body shop. And I can tell you that insurance companies do everything they can to wag, they're the tail that wags the dog's tail, the dog's body. The tail wags the dog, and the insurance companies always come out on top. And the poor guys in the middle, these guys, the body shops, they're the ones that are caught in the middle between the ratepayer, which you're talking about, and protecting, and I don't have any issue protecting the ratepayer. But I'm telling you that the insurance companies are the ones that are making money, and they're making money even with these prices, and these prices aren't outrageous.
Okay,
So
then I
if
would go.
your first
Madam Chair, I would go.
compromise is 2A, I reject that completely. Prohibitive fees.
I'm sorry, you reject 2A, the CPI adjustment?
Right, you're just giving them a one-time 3% on the 08 prices, correct?
That is, and as listed here, absolutely correct.
Okay.
So you want to give, yours, give them a 32% shot injection all at once, even though any of the last 10 years, they could have come up here and asked for it.
They could have, but they didn't, so.
I was here in 08.
Well, and I don't, you know, I appreciate your helping, but I agree. So are there any of these compromises?
It's not
that-
helping you by yelling at it or
Are any of
speaking
these
out like that.
compromises that are suggested, are they appealing to any of my fellow
I
commissioners?
think of knowing a sign size for disabilities is a good idea, sir.
Well, not only that, language, and
Yeah.
then you have to get rid of the entire punishment section of it, because, again, if they don't do it, or it's not posted, or God forbid the wind blows it over, or they don't update it in time, then they're subject to a $500 fine and
Yeah.
60 days in jail.
Well, maybe if Sheriff Ivy wouldn't mind coming up with what you think would be appropriate to post in the businesses, so we have transparency for people, if maybe if.
I don't know that we need to levy any more responsibility on this,
And
on
I
the
agree with
sheriff to
that.
go
I
around
think
and
that
check
the
out
sign is a
signs.
good idea.
But he could give us an idea of what it should be, maybe. I don't know, I don't know what these signs should look like, but
This is not in statute.
no, it's,
This is not in statute. This is a business mandate that if we vote for this, we would be putting on business owners here.
right, but if they're in
And then
the,
we'd be asking the sheriff to go around and make sure that the sign is there, and putting the sheriff in a tough spot by writing a ticket that potentially could lead to a $500
Yeah.
fine and 60 days in jail. I didn't
I-
write this. I'm just pointing out.
We're not gonna have tickets and $500 fines for a
I
sign.
think with
We're
what
not gonna do
Kurt
that.
just asked me on this, and we were looking at it, I think we need some kind of signage there. The whole thing's about transparency for people, and that's what's important.
I would.
So Sheriff-
I know, where's Laura? I would say that probably falls more correctly under code enforcement.
Okay.
In that regard than it would us.
And I would imagine they're going to post it up. They know it's in an ordinance, so I'm not
Yeah.
real concerned about nobody posting it. But, and Commissioner Zonka, I don't know your thoughts on it, but if we do more than one language, I think, you know, the ballots go out with Spanish, so English and Spanish if you want to do that. But I think past that, you know,
And the sign's a good idea, because if you remember, guys, when we did
It's a
COVID,
very good
we came
idea.
up with a specific sign, and we used that as a template, and we offered it to the
it's
public.
transparency.
Right, so we could do the same with this. I mean, it's pretty simple. Making an 11 by 14 sign or a 16 by 20, that's a pretty good sized sign.
Yeah,
And have it.
We could do a poster.
And have it Spanish and English. So we don't have to spend an hour deciding that. I think that covers the basis.
Okay, sir. And Commissioner Smith, you had also asked about if there was anything else, and I think I know what he's trying to say, but I think what we could do is on it, put any additional charges outside of this ordinance are prohibited, because I think that's what they were trying to do and what they were saying. So, and that's already without, it just already has to be there. So if we want to put that additional wording in there.
Yeah, I'm amenable to that.
Madam Chair,
So I just-
Do you need us to stay here?
But
Do you
you're
guys
lovely.
need the sheriff for anything?
Oh, I was lovely earlier, now I'm the sheriff.
Still lovely.
So, Commissioner Smith, we're counting votes, and wisely so, the chairs remain quiet on this one. And I tell you what, if she says she's in favor of this, I won't call it gouging. I will not call it gouging. I promise I won't say gouging again. 32% rate increase, then I'll leave off it, because you got your 3 votes, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse dead.
Okay, well, and that's why we're doing this. I want input. I want you guys to see what the process has been, understand what the process has been, and how we've gotten to where we are. And I disagree 100%. It's not gouging. I think it's reasonable. And as we've already heard, they're not happy with the numbers. And that's why I think it's a
I don't
good-
think they're going to be happy with anything that we do.
Well-
Especially if you start taking off these nickel and dime charges that they're charging, but no one else was. And I think the discussion during our meeting before was none of us liked those line item charges, because there's a lot of room in there.
And I thought we got rid of most of them. We didn't get rid of all of them, but we got rid of most of them.
No, we didn't.
And in
You-
all fairness, in 2008, you were told there was an automatic increase. If you didn't see the automatic increase, why not come back to the board or send an email? I mean, you had 15 years to do it. You guys already spoke, but, I mean, until
There may
recently.
be an increase, so I know
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah,
hearing
Ma-
that.
Madam
But I'm
Chair-
saying the expectation is, you can be mad at the board for not wanting to increase rates 30%. I refuse to go that high. That's too high.
Madam Chair.
But I think that I think they
2008.
definitely need an
Okay.
increase.
2008
I don't
says-
even have an issue with that, because the cost of everything's gone
So
up.
what
But I'm not
are you
okay with
thinking?
32.
Commissioner Zonka, here was what I did for right in the middle of the proposed, just in case. I didn't know if you guys were going to.
I think I was running these numbers as well. But I think you probably still have some of those charges in there that Commissioner Tobia may want to take out.
This, yeah, if you want to do, but this is the, what's in the current one, and this is the proposed one. And I just took the delta of the two and then made a middle adjustment, so y'all can look at it.
And as much as I'd love to pass this ordinance with Commissioner Smith, if we're going to really change it that much, I think it needs to come back. And then we can listen to these guys yell at us and talk out during the meeting the next time. And maybe by then, everybody will have cooler heads. But it's up to you guys. I mean, I'm happy to vote on it either way, but I can't guarantee it. I know this is not going to get my support, just the way it sits. But I mean, I do like some of your compromises. I also was listening to Commissioner
And I'm not
Pritchett.
adverse to them either, and that's why I'm wanting to hear what you guys have to say. So any of those middle ground, does that work for you?
I think we need to hear from you then.
You are hearing from me.
I mean, what you would like to do, because I think,
I'd like this to come back, because we've got 50 new ideas here, and I don't want
Yeah, I
something to
know.
get inadvertently left out, and then we're revisiting it anyway.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the math changes with two new commissioners. I have absolutely no idea where the other folks are. If you're,
And then we'll have a cleaner ordinance as well. I mean, I know that there's 3 of us, but if all 3 of us don't like those extra charges in there, we at least know when it comes back, those won't be there, because no matter who's up here, that's not going to change, unless one of them changes our mind, but.
if you want to vote on this, I would go with Commissioner Pritchett's delta between the 32 and the 0. I don't take her word that she did the math there. However, there's no way I could vote for that unless we did away with all the charges that the neighboring counties expressly prohibited. Not charge nothing, but said you can't charge for.
I
And then we have some sort of
think even
balance.
Commissioner Smith agreed with that.
I think if you go through those, and I was looking at them too, but there's a couple of them, I'm not sure I know what they are, sir, but I do know that the airbags are not the same as the air brake thing. So I think that's a little bit different on what they don't charge, because I'm pretty sure they charge for airbag every time they have to use them to lift the vehicle. So I think we might need to get some definitions on those a little bit. I've spent a lot of time on this, and I'm surprised I understand as much as I do right now. But I think we just need to look through those as well, sir, because I don't know what like a double jack thing is that you had on there either. I wish I could find it right now.
So,
we go.
Madam Chair, if you wanted to do that, to take 2 of the things off the table, I mean, again, I can't speak for anyone that's coming up here. I absolutely cannot, and unfortunately, Commissioner Smith won't be here. I would punt this over to the county attorney to look at those definitions and look at the neighboring counties. Again, I'd only want to look at our neighboring counties, the ones I looked at, and I would do the 15 if we got rid of all of those fees. And to be clear, it's not me saying it, it would be the county attorney saying, Volusia doesn't allow it, Orange doesn't allow it, therefore we shouldn't be charging for it. So I'd be comfortable with that and wouldn't even mention the 15%. But as you adeptly pointed out, I don't think the wrecker folks are going to be happy with only a 15%, increase in their fees. And I certainly don't think they're going to be happy if we pull off fees that currently are being charged. So understand that, this is.
We want to be fair, but we don't want to be the only county charging for things that we shouldn't be.
Well, and again, I'm just going to chime in here. I agree with you. I don't want to see excessive increases, but at the same time, many of these that he's concerned about, they're really not from 125 to 135 and 129 and change to 135. There's really not a lot of difference. 32%, it's just like, what was it that we passed that was, the trash fees. And everybody was up in arms because it was 39% increase. But the increase was what, from $12 to $15 or something like that? So, you got to put this in perspective. But I'm one guy here. This is something I decided I wanted to do. I tried to do it, and if we can do it,
But
let's.
if they're getting half of the year's worth of CPI back, then eliminating those other, because that's probably where they're making up their costs, is in all those little line item charges that they're charging that other counties aren't, because they're trying to make up the cost of the tow.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm just going, the red one that I pointed out here, fuel surcharge per mile, right now we charge 50 cents. Seminole charges 0, Volusia charges 0, Orange County charges 0, Polk County charges 0. Non-tow service call fee, right now we charge $51. Yours has $67.53. And while that's a 32% increase, right now Seminole charges 0, Volusia charges 0, Orange charges 0, Polk charges 0. And then we get into class B, C, and D, and there's a lot where we directly have charges and none of them have charges. So those are the ones there that I wonder why, and I'm not a towing person, but I wonder why we charge and not one other county does. It just, I'm not
Well,
following.
it's an interesting question. I don't understand why either, and it just boggles my mind that they don't, and particularly the fuel charge increase, because as you all know, these big rigs all run on diesel, and unless your head's been under a rock for the last year, you know that diesel fuel has gone from $3 a gallon to like $5.19, and I've seen it as high as $5.60 a gallon. And these guys, they're trying to make a living. They're trying to provide a service. And if we make it to the point for them that they're not the service they can't make money on, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, but-
so then what are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm with you, but here's the fallacy in that argument.
I see what that is.
Everyone is paying those high diesel costs. In Volusia County, they're paying those diesel.
Right.
And then
that's
if-
where I'm going with this.
Yeah, but-
They're going to change theirs too. I can't imagine that they aren't. Because if these guys aren't making money, they certainly aren't.
But-
So they're
but-
going to be going to their commissioners as well.
And right here in page 1 of the ordinance, you list that there are numerous firms willing to do this. So, they're claiming that they're not getting enough revenue, but by your ordinance, you state that there are numerous firms. I looked up how many firms had gone out of business, and I couldn't find that number. I'd seen that some had consolidated, but sometimes consolidation is a business positive thing, not a business negative, and there was no indication it's one or the other. So the fact that there are no numerous towing companies is probably a pretty good indication. The fact that someone is buying a $600,000 vehicle is probably a pretty good indication that they're making enough money. I understand it's very expensive, but no one says, I don't have enough money, but shoot, my Ferrari here costs,
So-
$600,000.
Let me just play devil's advocate here. So if in a year and a half's time, these guys, just say, you know what, we can't make money, and there's nobody else to fill the gap because there is nobody else, then what are you going to do?
Absolutely, it's a very good question. And we find out, then, yes, we might have cut it too far. And what they would do then, the sheriff would have trouble getting people on the rotation. He would come to us and say, hey, listen, we need to do something about these rates. But right now, we're in the same range of these neighboring counties. We're not seeing any problems in any of those counties. I looked up, I did a Google search, couldn't find anything. I haven't gotten any phone calls from wreckers complaining, hey, we're going out of, business or anything like that. Yes, there have been consolidations, but that doesn't mean folks are going out of business. You're well aware of this. So let's cross that bridge when we get there, but we're in the realm here of our neighboring counties. Even with the 3% increase, we're still higher on numerous fees. We're not the lowest one.
That's if we keep all those fees, right? Because some of the big ones, because if you cut all those, you're actually probably going to be lowering what they take in per tow. And I'm not saying I'm even against us removing those from our ordinance, but, or putting them in the ordinance as an exclusionary item, but I think what we need to do is just find a compromise. Compromise with the consideration that they haven't had a rate increase, whether or not you should have asked for it, or whether we should have just said, here, we're happy to make everybody pay more money. You can shift the blame wherever you want. I think there's a compromise in this. I just think it needs to be put together nicely, because I also want in there too that it's not an automatic increase and that it needs to come back to the board.
It clearly
And then
says, it clearly says that, it says all towing companies working under the resolution may be entitled to, maybe, it says maybe, I'm just reading this,
Yeah.
increase 3% or publish consumer price index, whichever is lower, with the approval of the Board of County Commissioners. And let me tell you right now, I will always, had they come up each and every year and asked for the CPI, I will tell you right now, as I'm doing right now, provide them that service of that 3%. Absolutely. If we do nothing now and they come back and ask for it, I'll be absolutely willing to do it. If they come back 12 months later, I'll tell you right now, they don't even need to come see me. I will be more than willing to do that. What I won't do is the fact that none of them got up here during public discussion and said, hey, listen, we'd like a 3% increase. And I would have said I'd be more than willing to offer that 3% increase. I would have even asked for a vote for that CPI, because that's not a tax increase. But it's a huge fee increase, over 30%, especially when we're similar to what other counties
Well, again,
are.
let's just remember what we're doing here. We're trying to make them whole, and whether they should have or didn't, and we should have and we didn't, I think it's fair for us to give them that increase. Again, this isn't going to break the insurance companies. They're not going to charge you double on your insurance bill. I just think these are reasonable. But some of these, as you've pointed out, are a little bit off the charts, not reasonable. So I've done what I can, guys. If you want to try and make a compromise tonight, I would love to do it and get it done, but I understand where you're coming from. So it's in your it's in your ballpark. It's in your court. What do you want to do?
Again, I'm not comfortable with, unless it's very definitive and everybody's in agreement, I'd rather see this come back. I know that's not what you want to hear.
Madam Chair, I won't be bringing back, I don't know if anyone else will be bringing it back. I'd be more than willing to if anyone came back, to go for the 3% increase as well as those other things. If you want to, this is Commissioner Smith's last time up here. If you wanted to give a 10 or 15-minute recess and allow Commissioner Smith to speak with some of the stakeholders and figure something out, obviously
That's
we
fine.
couldn't
We
be
can do
part of
that.
it. I'm more than willing to pay deference. I know he spent a lot of time on this.
I'd like to pass something, because I know how much hours and how much time and how important it is to them. I just want to be comfortable voting for it the way it sits. I think that you guys both brought excellent ideas. I think you covered everything I was concerned about, so
So what would you like to see?
I would like you to talk to those folks right
Yeah,
there.
but what are you looking for me to get out of them? So we can
Well,
say,
for
this is what
myself,
we're-
I would be comfortable with a comparable rate. And I don't know how you calculate that with the consideration of our county and how long our county is. I know that that matters, at least when it comes to trash collection. It matters when it comes to other services, because we are in Orlando. We aren't even busy like a normal busy city. They have quite a large area, so I'm willing to take exception and understanding with that. 32% is way too high. We can't make up for everything that they should have asked for. The commission should have, I guess, thought of on their own and put forward, but
Madam Chairman, would you have voted for 3% every year? The CPI?
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
And Commissioner Pritchett, if they asked for CPI, we asked voters for the CPI, right?
The lower CPI or
Yeah,
3%.
yeah, we
depending on-
asked voters to pay up that. I
Because we're getting
certainly
ready
think
to
it's only fair.
Drop into something soon. where I
Well,
think we're
and
gonna start
remember
having
that a
issues.
lot of these years, the CPI was only, what, 1 year recently, it was like 0.8% or something silly.
Those are
And we had a
bad
number
days.
of years like that.
Yeah.
So, to add those together, I don't think it's obscene to give them that number, since they should have had it in the first place, but that's your call.
Can
That's
Should have,
my
would have,
thought.
could have. I mean, we've held rate flat for some other times when there was recessions, we held fees flat in other departments. I don't know just at the county, but I know even at the city of Palm Bay, we flattened out fees, we waived fee, we did all kinds of crazy stuff.
And
in
you
government.
just heard that the entire board would have said, I wouldn't even question a 3% increase. It would have been a absolute,
Well,
had they come.
3% or CPI,
Absolutely, had they
whatever,
come
is
and
less.
asked, it would have
And the
been,
reality is they wouldn't exist as a business if they were hurting and losing money. I mean, I know that they're not making as much profit, but the fact of the matter is they're still in business.
Can I-
Not because they like to work, and they're in business because they're making money.
Can we maybe look at the compromise then? I mean, I
I'm
think
good with a
if,
compromise.
if we did half of it, then the middle of the, both options, it's right in between the proposed and where it is now. I did want to have it prepared because I had a feeling we were going to have this discussion. The only thing is, Commissioner Tobia,
yeah.
with the separate charges, because that's on page 2 of this chart I gave you. It's all the numbers that are on there, what they're currently being paid and what's proposed.
Okay.
So what if, because I know you guys are uncomfortable with additional charges, what if we go ahead and bring all the other ones up to the middle, leave the current as they are right now, and then we can come back and have a discussion with it later on whether we need to remove those, adjust other numbers, or move it up higher to the proposed or a middle-of-the-road option? That's compromise?
Well, apparently you don't, I'm not going to vote for the compromise unless we do away with the fees that are unique to Brevard County. If we do away with the fees that are unique to Brevard County,
Okay. Well, the only thing that's, help me with this, because I'm looking at these, and I do see a lot of them that are on here, I get it, but some of them don't mind if they have some of them, and some of them do. So I'm looking at the charges, trying to just get a handle on the difference in the rates. And like you said, that, we don't have any charges in one area, and then other counties have charges. So I don't know if they did that to try to
that's a valid point.
maneuver some of the money over for fees. So I'm just thinking of something we might be able to do to get them now, but we need to really sit down and do some tweaking on these charges. So anyways, my thought is leave the current alone right now. We need to work on that, get rid of it or whatever, and maybe do a middle of the options on the other charges for class, except the à la carte ones. That's what I've been calling it, the separate charges.
Okay, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
It sounds like, I don't know where Commissioner Smith is on that one, so it sounds like you have the 3 votes on that one. Unless those are pulled out, I can't vote for it, but I will, and this isn't fair because I'm not going to vote for it. I certainly would ask that you, and I spoke with the sheriff on this one, that you would throw in the public entity vehicles that's currently there. I would ask that you put in the pronoun for the designee. I would ask that the mileage stuff there, the language provided by the county attorney be put in there.
Tell me where you're at on that real quick. What, on your sheet? Oh, I like that one. This terminology, that was good terminology.
That was the county attorney.
Okay. That was actually what we were trying to work on anyway.
So basically what you're saying is, first of all, most importantly, you're working off 108. You're working off the 2008 document. That's the most important thing. You need to be working off the 2008 document. It's easier to add than it is contract, especially with a document that has strike-throughs that we just got today. So it's very difficult. So what I'm asking for, again, are things that Commissioner Smith already agreed to or put in his that were a great idea, which was the disability stuff. I would ask that the public entity vehicles that Commissioner Smith, great idea, I would ask that that's also added in to 2008. I would ask and the sheriff was comfortable with this. I spoke with him, he's more than welcome to, but he was in favor of the wrecker operating system 1068. So I would ask that that be added into 2008. The actual miles, your idea that the county attorney, I would add that, ask that be added in. And finally, the cleanup that probably should have been handled by a previous attorney dealing with the 22-foot not being able to be charged, be added in there. I think those are probably non-controversial ones, at least from our perspective. I don't know where the wrecker folks would be on that one, and I think that was wise of the chair to hopefully provide Commissioner Smith with a few minutes to go out and speak with those folks to see if,
So just tell me where you're.
Commissioner
I would
Tobias.
say, I'm going to ask that you take 5-10 minutes max, talk to them. I would offer 2 proposals that I'd be comfortable with. Increasing the rate somewhere in between CPI at 3% and somewhere where you are. Eliminating those other categories altogether. Maybe there's more room that we can increase the rate per tow to be higher, because they're obviously collecting the money on the line item charges, right? If their current rate is 114, they're making it up with these line item. I say eliminate the line item charges, like the other counties do, how they have them excluded, and come up with a rate that's comparable. And that's where I'd be comfortable,
So you'd be comfortable in this neighborhood and eliminate those.
only if those other numbers are eliminated. Or a number slightly lower than that, but these have to go, because I'm not sure where Commissioner Pritchett would be.
Well, this is, now you're confusing me.
No, I think we're just looking at different classes.
I have A, B, C, and D on 2 pages there for you.
Oh, we have,
on your
that's what I'm
spreadsheet.
saying, we have 50 papers up here, and
I took our ordinances and just typed numbers in for us. 'cause I
Madam
thought
Chair,
it was
not to make
easier.
things.
these are our line item charges here, that other counties do not charge,
Right.
that they have
So-
excluded by ordinance.
So you would say, let's eliminate these.
At least those.
That's this one right here.
Okay.
Commissioner
Eliminate
Tobias, on the
those.
ordinance you're
Those two.
looking at, does it have the change
those two.
about the increases coming back to the commission on the new one?
Madam Chair, I would hope that we worked off the 2008 document,
Okay, just
not
making
the
sure.
proposed one. And yes, I'm comfortable, I would only vote for, even though it sounds like my vote doesn't matter here potentially, I would only vote for one that required the towing industry to come up, especially given that we all said that we're in favor of giving them an annual CPI.
Then what's this one? This was Tobias as well, correct?
Yes, that's the one, that, the red one is,
But
if-
it has the, it's annotated with the one that they're prohibited by ordinance.
It's
Removal
doing-
of drive shaft, air hookup, removal of pull axle, remove a bumper, remove airfoils, loaded landau trailer, semi, rollback, dropback, and airbags per hour.
yes, those are the ones that on the left, it says our 2008, if the D4 proposal is there, but what I show is that Seminole County, Volusia County, Orange County, and Polk County don't charge for it. So my idea was to do away with it altogether. Even though Commissioner Pritchett brought up a very good idea, there's things that, you know, that we charge for that they don't, and I don't know what the balancing is. And in fairness to the wreckers, they brought up a very good point as far as the number of times that they go through the rotation. Again, Commissioner Smith, this was
And that's-
it's very, very complicated.
Exactly.
And you've done a super job. There are so many variables in here. I don't know that throwing a 32% increase is the answer to it. It would have been so much easier if they'd have come a 3% increase each and every year, especially if they would have
Well, they
had our
didn't, so
support.
we can't, we're not playing that game. They didn't, and we didn't, and so.
But
what can
there's
what
no
can we salvage
response.
from this?
To be
That's the
clear,
problem.
there's no responsibility on this board. No responsibility for us to raise their fees. Zero. I will sleep
Right.
well at night knowing it's not our responsibility.
Do you guys have a delta on what you'd be comfortable with of maybe doing an increase? These are the à la carte items he wants to get rid of, but the rest is that. So I didn't realize it was 31%, but is there a percentage you think that we could do, that everybody's comfortable with tonight, and then have this discussion later after we come back with what the changes of those other charges down here? These are the ones he says nobody else does.
And without knowing how often those are charged, to see if that's where they're making up their rate losses.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
So if we got rid of them tonight and gave them an increase on the other, we could actually cause them to go in the hole. So I just don't know where their numbers are landing right now.
That's why I wanted Commissioner Smith to talk to them,
Yeah.
see what they're comfortable with. I mean, I don't,
Well, give me something to show them.
okay. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes max.
So what do you propose? Okay. We're on? We're on. Okay, here's what the tellers would like to do. They would like to table this and have an opportunity to speak with each of the commissioners sitting here and the 2 new commissioners when they show up, and to discuss the different options and the compromises on a one-on-one basis and come up with something that you guys are comfortable with, so that when we come back, you guys come back, not we, you guys come back, you'll pretty much already have made a decision on where you can go, how you can get there, and get this done. So I make a motion to table this until the next meeting, and you guys can deal with it.
Okay,
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Pritchett. Commissioner Tobia?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I would hope Commissioner Smith would hold off on that. I'd like to, as a motion of goodwill here and all the hard work that Commissioner Smith put in on this, I think that instead of necessarily tabling before we do that, I would like to afford a 3% increase on the consumer price index. I think that would be good to do that immediately. And because I said I'd vote for it anytime they came up here and they wanted it, I think we should at least do that at this meeting. So
And would that be the only thing that you propose to
that is
change
the
at this moment?
At this moment, my office will be open, and it'll be up to Commissioner Smith.
But that's only a 3% increase over the
I'm still,
current.
yes, and nothing else is off the table. I'm
That's
just
meeting.
saying, at this meeting, I'm willing to give a 3%. They came, they asked, and I think that we should provide that. If you'd rather wait on that, but I've said on the record that I'm willing to give them 3% anytime they ask. They've asked, and so I'm offering that right now, but it's up to you, Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Pritchett?
Our attorney has a comment here that was interesting, so.
I'm not speaking as to the 3% proposal, but just as to tabling it without a date certain, and I don't think we know when it can come back because they want time to work on this and spend some time with it. I just want to get clarification that we'll have permission to re-advertise when the time comes. This is public adoption hearing, so since we're not tabling to a date certain, wanting to re-advertise. That's all.
Okay.
So what you're proposing is 3% right now, and then they can petition you guys for more than 3%, 6 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever from now. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely correct. But if you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I'll still provide the 3% later. You went through a lot of effort, and to table it, I think, it's completely your call.
So you guys give me a nod of the head. You willing to do that, or you just rather go back to what we talked about?
Change all the signs, it's gonna cost us, we're gonna try to come back and get the money that we feel we need to change something.
Okay.
So no.
I don't
Okay.
think any other changes would be made other than a 3%.
But he's saying.
Oh,
Got it.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's a good point. Thank you.
So let's,
So I'll pull off my motion. Thank you for.
Quick comment as we're doing this. I think what we need to work on some information on, because I'm hearing Commissioner Zonka and Commissioner Tobia, so you guys have to count votes. So if we remove all of those separate charges, guys need to come up with rates that are going to put you in an area to where you're able to run your business. That's what you need to start focusing on, and we'll run some data too. But that's what I'm hearing from the commissioners, that those separate charges are about to go away. And we're going to be more like the other counties, correct, sir? Is that what y'all are saying?
Well, they can have all the data, but I had one other question here, and that was on the wrecker operator, the one that the sheriff was going to, I had no changes to that other than that stupid pronoun, which we can change later. But the sheriff was in favor of it, Commissioner Smith was in favor of it. Do you want to put that into effect now, or do you want to wait on that? Because that sounded like everyone was on board with that.
I think the message is
Okay, it's fine.
that's a win, but let's
Okay.
just put it aside till
Okay.
further review, and
Fair.
you guys can you can You know, that's a go for the
Okay.
next meeting, whenever you want to do it.
And I'm
Morris,
glad,
do you need him to state his request in a different way in order to make it stick and with another second? As far as tabling goes, do you want him to?
Well, he said table the next meeting. I don't know that we're going to have the opportunity
How
for all
about if I
the,
just pull it?
You could pull it.
Yeah,
Can you pull
I'll
it?
just pull it.
sure.
Done deal.
And I would just, suggest anybody coming to my office, make sure that you have some representation from some of the smaller tower companies too, because, the larger guys can absorb a little bit more perhaps, and they have different perspective, so I'd like to see some smaller towers and not just the big guys.
and one
Commissioner
more,
Pritchett?
yeah, one more thing. Kind of heard what everybody's at and what they're thinking. So you need to work within those realms of what you think's doable and see what you can come up with that you think will get voted through, and that's the important thing. So you're going to need to talk to the other commissioners and find out where everybody's kind of landing so we can get you some increase. So, and you heard right now, the full amount here won't fly with the commissioner, so you need to get ready to put your negotiation hat on and figure out what'll work, getting rid of those extra charges as well.
All right, are we done? Okay. We'll move on to item H2.
Sorry. H2 is a public hearing on a proposed ordinance amending Chapter 102, Article 3, Section 102, 119 of the Brevard County Code pertaining to the Tourist Development Plan. This is an amendment that will add to the county's Tourist Development Plan what is already authorized by state statute. A 2018 amendment to the state law authorized the use of tourist development tax funds for certain capital projects and public facilities that are needed to increase tourist-related business activities in the county. And this would just add that tool to the toolbox. It would be part of the first 2 pennies in the tourist tax.
And I appreciate all your work on this, Morris. Mr. Richardson, we worked hard to come up with a plan that would keep us within the law and allow us to at least expand the possibility of use of TDT for other opportunities. This doesn't categorize anything, this doesn't necessarily commit anything, but what it does is it allows the TDC to make recommendations that will come back to the board, hopefully, and we can make a little bit of modification to the plan to address some other issues that impact our tourism industry. So,
Motion to approve?
I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett for approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And you had a card. I apologize. We got a little caught up in our towing, so.
Sandra Sullivan, and just a very quick comment. I was wondering how this changes the overall percentage, because it breaks down percent. How does it change the percentage for beach facilities? And I personally have an issue with this because beachside, we have an empty parking lot next to a park. We have a shortage of parking. We have very much a growing Brevard County with a parking issue beachside. So I'm interested in how that percentage for the acquisition of beach parks with so much population growth here. Previously, there was a $1.4 million where the developer was willing, or the owner was willing to sell it to the county for $1.4 million. The county and the developer were off by about $250,000. The county owns all of the yellow section, and this would very much double the parking area. So I'm just curious how, for opportunities like that, how does this proposed ordinance modify the amount of money that would be, or the percentage that would be available for expanding park facilities on the beach for tourism?
Thank you. And it's my understanding that this doesn't change anything the way it's existing currently, correct?
Not at all, Madam Chair. This would be nested in the 35% of the first two pennies that's allocated to sports facilities, aquariums, zoological parks, things like that, capital projects.
So, and it doesn't change the existing plan, that would all come from the TDC? It doesn't mean that people can't bring ideas on how to make modifications or eliminate or add to plans, but it just gives us a little more flexibility in the future. All right, so I apologize for missing you before we started voting, but, so can I get a motion in a second again? We start that over?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, guys. All right, item J1.
Good evening. Item J1 is asking the same for Hurricane Nicole as we previously asked for Hurricane Ian. We're requesting the board execute a resolution declaring it in the public interest to remove storm-generated debris from public and private right-of-ways in Brevard County, and to authorize the Solid Waste Management Director to request FEMA to approve the debris removal, making it eligible for federal reimbursement for the efforts.
All right, everybody understand?
Understand.
Motion by Commissioner Tobia,
Second.
second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, I have no further public comment cards. So moving on to board reports. Jim?
No report.
Mr. Richardson?
No report.
Commissioner Pritchett?
Well, I think it's time to just mention how much we are going to miss Kurt Smith. And Commissioner Smith, I'm not sure we know how to do commission without you. You've always had you up here to be the grown-up. And I mean that in a way, when things would ever get out of hand, he would always like, yeah, whatever. And I thought it was really cool because I'd always want to just kind of give someone a pop shot, and he would just be like, yeah, it's cool. So I've learned a lot from him through the time period, and you've just been absolutely delightful, and you're just part of the family, and you're going to be greatly missed up here. And so I just wanted to mention that.
I think in about 6 weeks you'll forget my name.
Nope.
I think we'll call Commissioner Felton or Commissioner Smith
Just for fun. Commissioner Tobia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a couple resolutions, or a couple, board reports here. Number one is District 3 has an internal policy capping 12 resolutions per year per district. If a commissioner decides to put a resolution on the agenda in any section of their consent outside that 12, I no longer can vote in the affirmative. Therefore, we've hit that, and I will be voting no, not because of the merits of the resolution, just because of the internal policy that is non-binding, but nonetheless. So that's number one. Number two is the Satellite Beach parking situation. First of all, I'd like to thank the county attorney for sending the letter that we asked him. I think he did a very good job on behalf of the board. As an aside, Mayor Osmer mentioned at the city council meeting last week that he got, quote, lots of emails from Satellite Beach residents to raise the proposed parking fee to the neighborhood of $85. On November 7th, I sent a letter to Mayor Osmer, an email asking him for the lots of emails that he referenced. A week has gone by, and I have not received word back, not even a response that he received that. Today, I did a public records request. Madam Chair, I did that out of District 3, and it clearly has the italicized, this is from District 3, and is not consent of the board. I'm just keeping you apprised of that. And I will be glad to share those emails should I receive them. But finally, the City of Satellite Beach is having their council meeting tomorrow evening to discuss the parking fees and potentially vote on them for a second time. I plan on being there. I will remain silent and certainly report back. But Ms. Barker was very good at providing the letter in the agenda packet, so all of the members of the city council certainly have that. And finally, a quick ask for the board. I'd just like to ask for the approval to direct staff to move forward with completing task 4 on the current RFQ regarding urban planning consulting. This is a study to merely look at our policies regarding land use designations. And the reason I'm asking you, because it was included as an option on a current study regarding utilities, which is far more effective than doing it by itself. The cost is about $50,000. Just to let you know, this is only looking at areas in District 3. And finally, before any action was ever taken on this, it would need to come back to the board not only once, but twice. Again, the reason I'm doing this is it's a lot more cost-effective to put this on a study that is looking at some of the similar data, potentially could save tens of thousands of dollars. So I would like to make a motion to direct staff to proceed with Task 4 on RFQ 72217 with urban planning consultant. I would have put that at the beginning, but it was just a good idea of management to add it at the last minute, and I didn't think it was fair to ask management to do that without getting the approval of the board. So that's the motion. I'd be more than willing to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Tobia. Can I get a second?
I just have a quick comment. Commissioner Tobia, I'm sorry, I don't remember this. I probably would approve it, I just don't have anything in front of me to look at.
Madam Chair? We've hired a consultant to do some work with utilities, with water in the district that I represent.
Right.
The expertise of that consultant, and by the way, we only got one back, could expand the scope to look at some land use stuff using some of the same data. There's an additional cost to doing that study. It's about $50,000. If they were to do that study independently, it could cost double or even triple that. But we already have people looking at some of the data, so they can add a little bit more. It would cost about $50,000. It's data that we can use to make better decisions as we move forward, but I can't make those decisions unilaterally. It would have to then come back to the board. Tad, I think, can probably, is that what I gave?
I think that
Pretty
sums it up.
accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is going to change nothing other than providing us with more data, and when we get that data, and I don't know what that'll be, it would come back to the board before we did anything. But to be very clear, this is exclusively in District 3.
So here's the
I-
questions I would have asked
Sure.
offline. Just, where's the funding coming from?
The funding is coming from our department, planning and development and utilities. It's a joint
So
kind of effort.
you have the budget for it?
Yes, ma'am, and it's
Okay.
been accounted for in our budget. And just to also help give the board some understanding is this would be, if we were to do anything, it would be a comp plan amendment, text amendment. And so that would come to you twice. You would have one opportunity to review it to see if you wanted to transmit it to DEO, and then the second opportunity would be once it comes back for actual adoption. So you would have two more looks at the results of this.
Okay.
And you see benefit to having the study?
I think that there's a benefit for the property owners and that in the South Beach area.
All right,
I'll vote yea.
okay.
Okay.
All right, I have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
That's it. All right. I'm on. So I don't want to keep anybody here any longer, but this is Kurt's last meeting.
Yay.
And Don Walker prepared this poem for Kurt, and with his permission, I'm going to read it. And if anybody knows Kurt Smith, if you've been watching a meeting or two like this, you know he loves to jet ski a lot. So Kurt Smith, the avid jet skier. Here's something that's worthy of note. When he ran, he won, got 63% of the vote. A fiscal conservative, that's a political superlative, But with each passing year, it's become that much clearer. This man's not just a leader, he's Kurt Smith, the avid jet skier. Born with a photographer's eye, civic-minded thinker, pie in the sky, God and country always come first, humanitarian with the heart that could burst. Never too shy to shed a tear, it's become that much clearer. This man's not just a leader, he's Kurt Smith, the avid jet skier. 2 terms in office, yep, that's the limit. But for 8 solid years, he put his soul in it. Diligent, sensitive, practical, and always steadfast, he helped move us forward, never back to the past. No matter the issue, never prompted by fear, it's become that much clearer. This man's not just a leader, he's Kurt Smith, the avid jet skier. So let's talk about Kurt Smith. Call him the man. A staunch lagoon advocate, he's a man with a plan. A true wave runner and stoic policymaker. For a chance on the water, he is always the taker. To us, it has always bemused, that smile on his face, his eyes so enthused. On the river or stream, on the jet ski he beams. Have water, will travel was always his theme. Covered in sunscreen and gear head to toe, off into the sunlit channels, an explorer on the go. He's never a taker, but always a giver. The native of Pennsville in the Delaware River. A hurricane grad who ran a successful franchise, who served his community well, and to no one's surprise. No matter where the winds may steer, it's become much clearer. This man's not just a leader, he's Kurt Smith, the avid jet skier. Don Walker. Yay! And if you haven't seen it, here it is. That's beautiful. Now, we all expect similar treatment when our time's up.
Can't wait to hear Commissioner Tobias.
Be nice. Yeah, Commissioner Tobias might have to be offline, Mr. Walker. And also, too, it's been an honor. I mean, don't be offended when I say this, but my daughter, who likes to come to meetings when she can, she's away at college now, she called Kurt the dad of the commission. She said, he just looks like a dad, and he's just got a huge heart. And so, not our dad, but just the dad. Like, he's the calm, cool, strong man. And we also have a nice plaque for you for your service. And it said, Brevard County presented to Kurt Smith in appreciation of your 8 years of exemplary leadership and dedicated service to Brevard County as a District 4 County Commissioner, 2014 to 2022. We're going to miss you like crazy, Kurt. And we hope you come back. At least come back and visit. Don't be a stranger.
I'll come back
Okay.
someday.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Do you have anything else you want to say? Is your last
Just
meeting?
there was
You want
6
to
years.
cuss?
It was 6 years of fun and rewarding episodes. It was great working with you guys. There was an awful lot of give and take, which I think is very important in a body like this. Robust discussion is always better than compliance. People that just don't think about what their vote is, they just go ahead and vote. I think that would be a shame, and obviously we didn't do that on this board. I have a few things that, going back to even before you guys, one of the things we did together was we negotiated with the cities, and we brought an end to CRAs and their projects and existing CRAs. I think that was pretty darn important. The prior commission, we approved economic incentives that brought a rocket manufacturing facility to the Space Coast for the very first time, which was Blue Origin. And they're, gosh, what are they up to now? About $400 million in salaries per year. So they've been a huge boon to the county. We became represented on Central Florida Expressway Authority in 2017. I think that was a big plus for the board. We worked with FEMA, Senator Scott's and Senator Rubio's offices to upgrade the EOC building. I think that's a huge feather in this commission's hat. We've increased tourism by a lot. We've attracted a market for youth sports in Brevard County. We renamed the Pineda Causeway Bridge from nothing to, it's now Major General John Cleveland Bridge. Outstanding and dedicated and very honored general in the Army. During COVID, we gave small business support to the tune of about $2.5 million. We've protected our natural resources, and we've made great strides in restoring the Indian River Lagoon. We've upgraded countless sewer and septic systems to help the Indian River Lagoon and make our county a nicer place to live. We've brought businesses here and created a very business-friendly environment for both our existing companies and new startups. And probably first and foremost in an awful lot of people's minds is we've kept taxes low by working together and to manage our spending so that property tax bills have remained virtually the same or even decreased. So we did all that. Kudos to my fellow commissioners.
We got through COVID.
We got through COVID. And we got through a rogue commissioner. And that's a ongoing saga. Tune in.
You'll have to come back for that audit.
So anyway, thanks, guys. It's been a fun 8 years, and thanks to the staff. They've been terrific. Ay, ay, ay. Thanks.
You're pretty awesome.
Too emotional.
We'll adjourn.
Good.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.